Why do people betray us? When we think we are operating with the same agreements and the same understanding of things, and then we find out we're not. Well, today's guest, Lora Cheadle, is a betrayal recovery coach, and she's going to talk to us about how to rise from the ashes, reclaim your identity and your self-worth, and break free from repeating patterns to live a life of confidence, clarity, and grace. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Well, hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Soul Nectar Show. That show where we explore all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, to the mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of who we are and what we're doing and why we're here. I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird, and I don't know about you, but I've had a little bit of a rocky 2025. It has been not easy. It has been challenging. I've gotten sick. I had the flu. I never get sick. I had the flu. I've had a terrible cough. I'm recovering now. Hopefully I'll get through this interview just fine. And I have been having lots of challenges in my personal life and people I really care about having challenges. And this theme that we're going to be talking about today is really resonating strongly in my heart, even as of just a little while ago. I had another experience of feeling betrayed, feeling violated, feeling like people that are supposed to be there for you don't end up doing what they're supposed to do. They're not operating from integrity within themselves for whatever reason. They might be operating from their own base desires. They might be operating from their own sense of that's not my problem. They might be operating from greed or desire or addiction, a number of things, that shadows that people are facing. And then you're leaning on certain people to be at their best, and then they're just not. And then everything is dropped. The things you care about, the people you care about, being dropped, not having the support that they deserve to have in a compassionate world. And I'm Kerri Hummingbird, and I'm here for a compassionate world. I'm here for a world where we do what we say and we say what we do, where we show up with integrity, where if we say we're a healer or a helper, that we're actually that, and that we do what we're called to do from a higher level, from a divine level, not from this lower base level that many of us get trapped in. But people get trapped in those spaces. And so we're going to talk about that today. How can you handle it when you're betrayed, when your faith and your confidence is betrayed? And it takes an emotional toll. How can you move through that? I have my friend Lora Cheadle here with us today, who's a betrayal recovery coach. Did you even know that there's such a thing? A betrayal recovery coach. Welcome, Lora.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to our conversation because I know you and I know we're going to go really deep and change a lot of perspectives and a lot of lives with this conversation.
Exactly. I love the fact that you have been a TEDx speaker, that you're an attorney, also a JD. It's like an attorney and a spiritual person. What? Like those things go together. You help women heal from betrayal on an energetic, emotional, and ancestral level, while also providing legal guidance to help them navigate the practical complexities of infidelity and relationship transitions, and empowering everyone to rise from the ashes, right? Rise from those ashes of betrayal, because you might be a man in my audience going, I've been betrayed by women, so this is not exclusive, this experience. But I want to say, if you felt betrayed, this is the conversation for you, because it does impact our self-worth. It impacts how we think about ourselves and how we think about the world. It impacts our faith and trust in a good, compassionate world. And it makes a difference when people don't really do what they say they're going to do. That makes a huge difference in our sense of safety, right? And what's like you're dealing, like a lot of your experience, right? And I'm going to let you talk about it, but a lot of your experience has been being in a close relationship. Your partner, your person that's supposed to have your back, your person who's supposed to love you the most, the person who's supposed to advocate for you, that helps you pay the bills and put food on the table and even have children together and all of that. That person, when that person betrays you through infidelity, let's say, or some other way, who knows, there's lots of ways to be betrayed. Gosh, that's hard. And so tell us about your experience with that, because I know you're still together with your husband, so you're doing the deep shadow work to
Yeah.
work in the relationship. It's not that you throw it out necessarily, although sometimes you do. I did, my first one.
Mhm.
But you have to make that decision, right? So how did you move through that process when you found out that there was infidelity and you felt betrayed? What was some of your first moves?
I love everything that you've said. The first move, the very first move is to feel it and to cry and to grieve. And I spent, a good week on the floor, literally unable to get up with the thoughts, with the emotions, with the, oh my God, how could this have happened to me? Really, the first move is to lean into that pain because here's the thing. Betrayal is a universal human experience. We all feel betrayed. We all get betrayed. And there's a difference between feeling betrayed and actually getting betrayed too. And I can talk about that a little bit more later. But it's universally one of the most painful experiences because of all the reasons you said. It cuts to our worth, our view of ourself and how good we are. And it brings up all those feelings of like, what did I do wrong? And how can I be so worthless that other people can't see my value? So the first step is always to feel that, to not run away from the shadow, to embrace that, to embrace that pain, to recognize that that pain is a way where we can connect universally to other people. And once you lean in and embrace that pain, that's when it starts to go away a little bit. That's when it starts to metabolize and process.
It's not easy, I'll tell you, because I had an experience of betrayal just this morning, right before this call. So synchronistic because we're going to have this conversation, right? So I always so grateful for the alignment. But yeah, somebody I really care about, right, is getting dropped by a provider who's not holding true to their ethical word. And they're
Mhm.
taking somebody who's struggling with a rare mental illness. Only 1% of the population has schizoaffective disorder, and pumping this person out on the street instead of placing them where they know that that person needs to go next to get help because
Mhm.
they made their money. So they're done, right? I care about this person. And so my heart feels very betrayed by the system. And the betrayal for me included anger. I don't know what other, but like anger, rage, violation, disgust, just like really angry and like wanting to go in person to tell this provider what I think about them, you
Mhm.
know, and like really, really deep worry and concern too for the person I care about.
Mhm.
So like feeling like I want to rush in and save the day or like do battle or be a warrior, like
Yes.
cut somebody down to their size. Like these are feelings I had just even like half an hour ago.
Yeah.
And is that kind of like what some of the betrayal feelings are?
Yes. If you, as a lawyer, I like definitions. So I always start with definitions. The definition of betrayal is the breaking of an expectation that you have relied on. So you relied on people to be in integrity. You relied on people to help. So betrayal is the breaking of an expectation that you relied on that ruptures your view of yourself or the view of the world. And when that happens, rage, anger. And the reason that it's so palpable, that it's so painful is this is your worldview. I thought people in this profession would stand up and be in integrity. I thought I could count on the healers, the protectors, those with the information to help me. I thought I could count on them to help. Isn't that how our world is set up? We have rules, we have structures, we have systems, and we're relying on these systems. And that system is not letting not only me down, but it's cracked my worldview. And now I'm in this place of vulnerability because if I can't rely on that, I can't rely on, think about all the people we rely on, the medical profession, the legal profession, the police, the fire, the government. Like we rely on all of these people. We rely on friends, we rely on family. So it cracks our foundation. And now we think, I can't trust anything. Oh my God, if this can happen, everything else can happen. So it hijacks our brain. It hijacks our nervous system. And it puts us in this complete state of fight, flight, or freeze. And it also makes us think, I can't trust myself. Like you, I'm intuitive. I pride myself on being able to drop in and feel energy. And then when I found out, oh, really? My husband's been cheating on me for 15 years and I didn't see it, then it cracks my faith in myself. Who am I? I'm a fraud. I'm an imposter. So literally, it shatters the world around us. And yes, that's going to hurt. That's going to make us mad. And it's going to make us afraid.
And beyond like just my experience of that today, this morning, there's been so much going on. I'm not going to talk about politics, but I am going to say there's been an individual in leadership of our country who is doing a lot of behaviors that feel like betrayals to things that as an American, I hold dear. I hold dear that we all have birthright citizenship, that we were born here and we belong here, and that anybody born here belongs here. I hold that dear
Yes.
to my heart. And here's an individual who said, nah.
Yes.
And that is a betrayal. That's a betrayal of the values that I hold dear in this country.
Mhm.
So it's like asking us, what does it even mean? Like we all thought we knew what it meant to be an American. And now some of us are going, that's not what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing that that's what that means. I'm seeing this dirty underbelly side.
Yes.
Like this nasty lie that's been perpetrated. And then I'm seeing, oh, is it all just about the money? Which is my experience this morning. Oh, is it just all about the money? You only do it because it's the money. Then that makes me really angry because that's not how I've ever operated. So yeah, I feel betrayed. I feel like I was innocently going along believing in all of these grand illusions about what it means to be a healer, what it means to be a medical professional, what it needs to be a provider, what it means to be a citizen, what it means to be a government official. All of that is just like in the toilet right now.
Yeah. And what even makes that worse is not only are you going along innocently believing it, but you're doing your part in good faith. And that's the other part of betrayal that leads to such pain and such resentment. I did what I was supposed to do, whether it was like me in the marriage. I showed up. I was faithful. I stepped back from my career so you could lean ahead in yours. I sacrificed building my retirement because I trusted that I could still have a part of yours because we were working together. I thought we were raising our kids. I thought we were each sacrificing for the good of the whole. And come to find out, really, I was the only one doing my part. It's a stab in the heart. It really is.
It really is. And so I'll also confess, because anybody who's read my first book, Awakening to Me, knows that I was the infidelity one. I was the one who left the marriage and went out and tried to find happiness in other arms because I didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel loved. I didn't feel that I was heard or seen. And that was my perception, right? Whether it's true or not, it was my perception. And I felt really criticized.
And I love that you went there because all this is part of the healing of betrayal. All experiences have a 360-degree view. And until we can start walking around and seeing the experience, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of understanding, our healing becomes more difficult. And like you, my husband did not feel validated. He was in pain. He didn't know how to communicate that pain. He didn't know how to bridge the gap. And he thought cheating would make him feel better. And then it didn't. And then that created guilt. And then that created shame. And then that created more blockage. And it started spiraling. My healing really, really kickstarted when I was able to understand and see his perspective. I don't have to agree with it. It wasn't the choice that I made. It didn't absolve him and it didn't take away my pain. He still made a choice that was out of alignment with the ethics of who he really was, but I understand that. And that's really, really important, even when it becomes, on a world stage. How can we see the perspective of the perpetrator? Not agree with it, not let them off the hook. Oh, it's all okay. But how can we understand the depth of their pain? Because people don't act out of alignment, like you said, until you're in pain. And pain causes us to do things that are out of alignment. So it's broadening, having that 360-degree view and extending some love, extending some compassion.
It's so hard to have that when, from your perspective, you see the other person really wrong. Like
Yes.
the right and wrong thing, and it's such a core feeling. Like it's a violation of a principle, right?
Yes.
That you're living in. And when I was doing that violation, I felt myself violating myself because I was not being the person that I knew I was in truth. I was acting falsely.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that about myself. I knew when I was doing it that I was not in truth. And there was a sort of like rebelliousness to it. Like, I'm just not going to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to go do this because then I'll make myself feel better. It wasn't really about hurting him. And I actually couldn't stop myself. I had this weird like addiction or psychosis around it where I couldn't actually stop myself from doing it. And I would go on, I would tell him, I would say, I just did it again. Oh my God, I don't know why. I wish I could stop. And I just, because I'm so transparent, I would just go, I happen again. I don't know why I'm doing it. And so I finally left the relationship because I couldn't stop myself from doing it. And I didn't want that to be his reality or my reality. And so I just said, okay, I just need to leave. Like, obviously, I need to sequester myself because there's something going on with me that I don't understand and I can't make it stop. So I need to just remove myself from the situation in order to be a good person. Like, I actually just need to go.
Yes.
That was my choice. That's what I did. It wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to keep going with it. And I just thought, no, I can't live with it. Like, I can't live with what I'm doing.
The wound, spiritually speaking, the wound of betrayal, I believe is one of the most profound lessons a soul can learn. And what's so profound about it, it ties right into what you were saying. It's a gift for both of the people involved. This whole dance of betrayal only happens when both people have a lesson to learn, when they are on the cusp of elevating into something bigger and better. And you hit the nail on the head when you said you were violating your own integrity. So true. So true. I really like to say that all betrayal spirals back down to self-betrayal on some level. And when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to see because we really want to make it about other people. And it is about other people. They've got their own wound too. But when we can get through it and come back home to ourselves and ask ourselves, where am I betraying myself? Where am I not standing in my mastery? Where am I giving up some of my power? Where am I not creating my own life? Where am I giving up too much of myself in this situation? And that took me a long time to get to because when you're betrayed, you are victimized. You have been victimized. Own that. but you don't have to be a victim. Being a victim is an identity. All humans are victimized. All humans will be victimized. Everybody listening, you will be victimized. That's part of the life journey. But you don't have to wear the identity of victim. And that's that big step. That's that big learning. That is one of the gifts, the profound gifts of betrayal. Where can you use this experience to stand more in your power? You had mentioned fighting. Fighting is something we want to do, but power is getting to the place where we realize maybe I don't have to fight like that. Maybe it's less about them and it's more about me.
Yeah, I like that you're saying that because I've in this situation that I'm in where I had asked for help with this person because I cannot manage it myself. Like I tried managing it myself and I was not able to.
Yes.
And so I asked for help from people that I assumed would be able to help me, right? Because of their
Yep.
title or because of their degrees or
Position.
because of their position in our society. And then when you find out that they don't even know what they're doing and that they're actually betraying all of us by acting as if they know, but then they don't know, and then the whole thing's a big mess. It's like really frustrating to then wonder, why is this repeating in my life?
Mm-hmm.
So like you, I look at all levels. Like I will look at soul contracts. I will look at like, what is my past life relationships with this person? What is repeating here? What at a soul level needs resolution? Because
Mm-hmm.
that is the key, right? And in this case, the soul contract, the soul experience that we're working through is this person being independent, right?
Yes.
That's what's happening here. But this soul is very not willing to be independent, right? Wants to like come and lean on me a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
because I have a lot of compassion, because I do have a lot of empathy and I do have a lot of compassion and I am a safe space. But at the same time, like that, holding that kind of space when you know that their soul needs to break free and be independent and
Mm-hmm.
find a way to do that and to be safe without you there,
Yes.
that is where it gets tough, Laura, because by conditioning, right, our ideas about how relationships are supposed to be, certain relationships are supposed to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
We think we're supposed to be this way, and then spirit is telling us, no, it's the opposite. Like you actually need to hold this line.
Yes. Yes. And similar, you said something before the show, like if I give my all to this person and just, I would have to quit everything else.
Yeah, I would have to stop literally
And
this podcast, everything. It would have to stop.
everything. Yeah. And that's the ultimate form of self-betrayal. And in our society, women and men have been conditioned to self-betray in very different ways. Women have been conditioned to self-betray by taking care of everybody else, managing the relationships, managing the home, the family, looking a certain way, acting a certain way, dressing a certain way. We are constantly told, be the good girl, be the good friend, be the good wife, be the good mom. We are conditioned to self-betray in that self-sacrificial martyrdom type of way. Men are taught to self-betray by ignoring their emotions. Be a good provider, show up, be strong, be macho. So we're each taught to self-betray in different ways. And that's why I love how you talked about soul contracts. But that's that gift of betrayal. When it comes up, it forces us to choose ourselves. How can I break away from all of that societal conditioning, from maybe all of that karma that I've got going on, from my ancestral lineage? When I look at my ancestral lineage, the lineage that I come from, women have always sacrificed for the good of the family. They have always quieted themselves, controlled themselves, taken a back seat, pushed other people forward. I'm breaking that lineage. I am being true to myself going forward. And the test is, even when it hurts, even when it's not really what I wanted to do, even when I'm not sure what the future is going to hold, how can I trust myself and own myself and step forward in confidence that no matter what happens, no matter how many times other people betray me in the future, I know how to manage these emotions. I know how to feel. I know how to grieve. I know how to rage. And I know how to find that truth within me and then stand firmly in that truth as a beacon of light for others to do the same.
Yeah, and the fact that you're talking about it too, because I know from my experience of publishing my books about my personal journey that my family didn't appreciate me saying all those things publicly, right? Like
Mhm.
that's supposed to be private and you're supposed to keep that to yourself. But that's how these patterns perpetuate is when women won't speak up and say what's going on and stand in our power and stand in our truth and challenge authority and say no. That's if we're not really going to stand in our power and stand in our truth and we're going to hide it all behind the scenes and put on a smile at Christmas and take our family photo where everyone's just fake smiling,
Yeah.
that my kids stopped doing that because I stopped doing it. We actually haven't had a family photo where we're all smiling like in a decade or more because they
Love
just don't feel like it. So they don't sit there and smile fake. So
Yeah.
we're just where we're at. Like that's the thing I've learned is how important, how much more important it is to be truthful, honest, transparent, and a person of integrity than it is
Mm.
to uphold some kind of fake ideal or pretend, that it didn't happen or cover it up. A lot of women and men, people who have been cheated on, right? They don't
Mhm.
want anybody else to know. They want to
No,
keep it all a secret because they feel like their
it's
identity
embarrassing.
has been cracked, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's embarrassing. And that was one of the, like you mentioned, my husband and I are still together. That was one of the deals, I guess, when we were going through this. And I kept feeling inside the story is not over. I want to keep working. And he wanted to keep working. And I said, but here's the thing. I am feeling very strongly that this is my mission, that this was my lesson for a purpose, that I need to share it. I'm sharing all the intimate, embarrassing details of what you did, of the kinds of women you did it with, of what was going on for you, not to shame you, not to embarrass you, but because I feel very strongly that this story needs to be told. And in fact, I would love for you to be on my podcast and I would love for us to talk about this together and you can share so other people who are cheating can understand your point of view. So we can have this dialogue. So I can talk about healing when I hate you in the moment, and then healing when I can't believe how much I love you in the moment, and then my moments when we think maybe we are going to separate, and then moments where we think, no, I'm going to be together. And I said, that's kind of like my condition. I will stay together and work with you because I feel strongly, but this is how I'm going to do it. Think about that. And he came back to me and he's like, yeah, it's going to be really hard to be on a podcast and to say, yeah, I cheated on you. Yeah, I did this because I was feeling shame. But you're right. I feel like the strongest way through this is by standing in the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Yeah, and the truth does set you free because when you try to hide things is when people can use that to betray you again.
Yes.
So if you're just
Yes.
honest and upfront with your journey and what's happened, people can't use that against you because you've already claimed it, you've already owned it. And that's what
Mhm.
I did. I owned my journey. I just said, yeah, this was part
Yes.
of my journey. This is where I started. This is what made
Yes.
me want to wake up. This was what made me want to go on my journey of healing. That's what made me want to understand myself and my body and made me want to learn how to speak up because that's the reason why is because I felt so criticized and I wasn't willing to speak up. Like I wasn't willing to say, I
Here's the
don't know,
problem.
like I don't feel pleasure in our relationship. I mean basic stuff that I needed to say, but I didn't want to hurt him, so I went and hurt him, some other way. So it's a really crazy thing, betrayal.
Yeah.
So
And we
what
all do it. We're all on both sides of it all the time.
well, and I think part of this like betrayal thing, it's like a misunderstanding or a misalignment of agreement, right? Like
Yes.
because if we don't if we don't go into a relationship with a clear understanding that what we're after is transparency and
Mm-hmm.
honesty,
Mm-hmm.
if that's not a founding principle, then we're kind of like just guessing what it means to be married.
Yes.
Till death
Yeah.
do us part, like that was the whole agreement in my first marriage, right? Like I agree to be your person until death do us part. But
Right.
that
Whatever
is,
that means.
what does that mean? And does that mean I violate myself or go against my own happiness or my own joy just to stay with you? Just to I don't feel like that's demonstrating the kind of relationship that I witnessed my mom and her third husband having, my dad. It took her
Yeah.
3 tries, but she finally got a winner. And and the thing that they did was they were honest with each other. They
Mm-hmm.
prioritized honesty. They'd both been in difficult, rocky relationships before. They both learned from those relationships the things that get you in trouble in relationship. And then they
Mm-hmm.
both decided to create a relationship based on honesty and transparency.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
worked on their relationship. They had a counselor like right from the beginning. And so I was trying to do that in my first marriage, but I was the only one showing up. Like I was the only
Right.
one that was showing up for that.
Yeah.
So it didn't work.
Yeah. And I love that you went there because I have this 5-step process that I use to manage betrayal. And it's called Fuel Up, and it's an acronym. But the E, FUEL, is for expectation management. And there are 3 steps in that. And this is
Mm.
exactly what you're saying.
Hmm.
Expectation management requires you to be able to identify your expectations, communicate those expectations to the appropriate person, and then advocate effectively on behalf of your expectations. And what's really interesting about that is when you really start thinking about it, most people are not even able to do step 1, identify their expectations. And I love how you talked about that. Yeah, like with a marriage, what does it mean? Well, my version and your version and everybody else's version is going to be a little bit different. So when we say to death do us part, some people think that's literal, some people think it's metaphoric. Let's talk about and identify those expectations. And going back to being a lawyer in contracts law, a contract is defined as the meeting of the minds. You have to have a meeting of the minds in order to form a contract. So if I say delivery of, you know, 50 pounds of kyanite crystal, what kind of kyanite crystal? Polished in little tiny beads, in little tiny chunks. We have to, it's more than just kyanite crystals. What does that mean? In one large thing, we have to have a meeting of the minds. We have to have a definition. Delivered by when? In 24 hours? In 6 years? Over time? Like all of these details, we don't hash out in our personal life. We just expect everybody will know what we mean. Because isn't that what we expect? Isn't that what we mean? Doesn't everybody know this? So identifying very clearly what you want is the first step of expectation management.
I love that. And this is one of the reasons why in my second marriage, the one I'm in now, to my lovely partner, Rakeem, is that we live our relationship by the 4 agreements. And one of the agreements is don't make assumptions
Yep.
for that exact reason.
Yes,
Because, yeah, you have to discuss things. Sometimes in that discussion process, it's really uncomfortable
it is.
because you're talking about like, you're spelling out things that are obvious to you, but they're not
Right.
obvious. You think they're obvious, but they're
No.
not. They're not obvious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we're not clear with our communication, when we're not impeccable with the word, which is the first agreement, all kinds of misunderstandings happen. And
Hmm.
fear comes in then. Fear
Yes.
comes in when people don't understand what it means. And then they start arguing over what it means
Hmm.
instead of like being curious about what's intended here. Like be specific with your language. I love that you bring in that lawyerish legalese there because that is important to get that clear.
Yeah, it really is. And then that second step after you've communicated it or after you've identified it is to communicate it. Because so often we get clear in our heads and then we make these decisions. And we're like, oh, yeah, well, this is what I'm going to do. But we fail to communicate it or we don't communicate it to the appropriate people. Like we communicate it maybe to an admin over here with the assumption that that admin will go tell, the person that we're dealing with, or we communicate it to our best friend, or we communicate it to our partner's brother with this weird manipulative idea that, well, he will then share it with him and then I'll get my needs met. Communicate to the person that you need the action from, because then you can have that dialogue. I can communicate. Sometimes it's simple. I can communicate, hey, I want pizza tonight. And my partner's like, wait, what? And I just assumed, well, we always do pizza on Thursday night. So I want pizza tonight. Well, we've had these assumptions, but we have to communicate it. And that's just such a simple, silly example. But when you get in the habit of communicating along the way, it makes it easier for the big things.
Yeah, like if your partner had felt or had experienced the ability to communicate, I'm feeling like I'm not pleasing you, or I'm feeling really insecure, or I'm feeling ashamed of myself, or I'm feeling, not
Yes.
attractive, or whatever those things are. If your partner was able to communicate those things, which is why psychotherapy is actually pretty useful for that kind of thing, because it gets you
Yes.
communicating, then you could actually have averted some of this crisis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then that third step, again, this goes back to the lawyer in me, but is advocate on behalf of yourself and your expectations. Yes, hold space for the other person. Yes, get curious. But at the end of the day, too, how do you advocate effectively for what you want? And I love that you talked about anger earlier on and why I said the first step is to let those emotions process. Typically, effective advocacy does not involve aggression or anger. That,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly. That gunks up works because then people get defensive. It
yes,
triggers the defenses. And in the gene keys, that's called the Eden loop, wherein your
yes,
emotional process is triggered and then your mental defenses kick up. And then the other person's emotional center gets triggered because your mental defense got, and then they get mentally defensive. And then people are just arguing back and forth. And pretty soon they could have been saying 99% the same thing. But by the
yeah,
time you're done with that argument, it's like they're polar opposites. It's like they're not even on the same planet.
yeah, absolutely. And whether it's tears or anger or frustration or fear, whatever emotion triggers that. So, how do you advocate? Two of the things that I recommend starting with is I statements.
Like
I expected.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling this, or I'm expecting this. This is what I prefer.
Yes, I need. I need help. I expected that. I can't. I can. And then following up instead of you didn't do this and you made me so mad and you have now set me up and that what I need, what I want, what I feel, what I expect. And then the second step of advocacy, and we talk about this a lot too, is just boundaries. But a boundary is a statement, again, communicated to the other person of what you will or will not do. I expected this. What I am going to do now is, and then do it. I need to leave the room. I need to communicate to your superior. I need to share this experience. I need telling people what I am going to do now that this has happened. And why that's powerful is it lets the other person know where you stand so they can make different decisions. I am communicating this to your superior. I am filing for divorce unless whatever it is, let the other person know and then do that. If I say, I am feeling so overwhelmed by this infidelity, I need a third party to help us out, whether it's a coach or a psychotherapist. And if we don't get that, I need to leave this relationship because I can't stay in integrity with myself. It lets the other person know what you are going to do, and then they have a choice. If they choose the same thing, perfect. We will get a coach. we will get a therapist. We will continue to move forward. And if they don't, it sets you free because it lets you know where they stand.
Yeah. And then there's that, that recognition, even in the stating of that need, that you had the need to begin with, which you may
Yes.
not have ever vocalized
Realized.
or thought about. You just assumed in the back of your mind that, of course, this is how marriages work. Of course, this is
Totally.
how, providers
Society
work.
works.
Of
Yeah.
course, this is what would be expected. And you
Mm.
just were assuming it. But until we have the conversation, right, where we realize that not everybody was agreeing to the same thing because it was never vocalized or discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this has got to be part of demolishing codependency. I'm
Yes.
realizing how much this is about codependency.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's also that self-betrayal. And I think codependency is really a form of self-betrayal too. How do we claim for ourselves who we are and what we want? And that's for me, and I know for a lot of the people that I work with, it's really hard to just claim what you want and what you need. Because we're like, well, I don't want to be entitled. Well, I don't want to seem arrogant. Well, I don't want to be needy. Who are you and what do you want? What can you claim for yourself? I claim more for myself now than I ever have because I realize my worth because of what I have gone through with betrayal.
Exactly. You had a relationship that was struggling through betrayal. Both of you decided to work on the relationship. And I
Hmm.
want to say there's no right answer here
Nope.
because it has to do with the two people that are in the relationship, what those two people prioritize and value. And then the choice to move through it is a huge opportunity for personal growth. The choice to leave it is equally a huge opportunity for personal growth because I experienced that version. And
Yeah.
so, either way, you're going to learn about yourself. You're going to learn about what's important to you, and you're going to learn how to communicate that, and you're going to learn how to listen and also share, speak.
Yeah.
And that's what we need more of instead of people just kind of hiding and just making do and well, I'll just deal with that, or oh, I'll just sacrifice this, or oh, I'll just,
Yeah. And I love,
no.
yeah, I love that you went there too, because the lessons look different for everybody. It's the common denominator of choosing yourself because the only person we can control is ourself. And other people will let us down, and other people will betray us, and other people will do good things too. But it's how to choose yourself and how to be okay with that. If my husband would not have wanted to work through this, I couldn't have forced that. And I wouldn't have wanted to force that. The hardest decision we ever made was truly talking with each other in a way that said, I am going to choose to work on this relationship, but I also want the freedom to walk away at any point in time if we are no longer in alignment. And that was really hard because I wanted him to choose himself first, and I wanted me to choose myself first. And if that works, we can go forward in love. And if that doesn't work, we can go forward in love.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually was one of the first agreements in my marital agreement list because we made an agreement. We said we're going to live by the four agreements, but the first thing was we honor our divine path first. Our individual
Yes.
divine paths are number one, and then after that, it's family, and after that, it's community and our work. So we have this. We decided how we're going to process, navigate our decision making and what we prioritize based on this list of agreements so that we're spelling it out, and then every year we look at the agreements and go, are these still our agreements? Do these still work for us? Are these still helping us to navigate this relationship? And if they are, we keep them. And if not, we add something new or we change something. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's been really helpful to spell it out. But I don't think you know that until you've gone through one of these disastrous relationships.
Yeah.
You once you go through disaster, you go, oh, that's why I should have read all those books first, but I
Ex-
didn't know I needed it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, we don't know until we know.
life teaches us, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. But it all brings us back home to ourself. And I think that's what's really powerful about it. We all start with this idealistic view, and life is becoming, I believe, one of the paths of life is moving from that idealism to the realism, and then back to that idealism again with the wisdom that we have accumulated along the way.
Yeah, because now we're no longer expecting people to live as we think they should inside our
Yes.
minds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your new book, is it your new book is called, it's not Burnout, it's Betrayal, 5 Tools to Fuel Up and Thrive. Yes?
Yes, it is. And it's such a powerful book because it takes this concept of betrayal and it shows how often it can show up, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's dealing with medical personnel, government officials, relationships. It just helps people understand really what it is, how it shows up, and why it's different from burnout. Because the exhaustion that we all feel when things fall apart, sometimes we're like, I'm just burned out. This relationship is burning me out. This career is burning me out. When we understand it's not really burnout, it's a sense of betrayal, and you're overwhelmed by those feelings of betrayal, and you don't know how to manage it. So it helps give you the tools to identify, prevent, manage, and treat those feelings of betrayal.
Oh, that's so needed right now on the planet. We have a lot of feelings of betrayal going on in the collective. I see it every day on social, people
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
very betrayed by what's going on in our government. And so this sounds like a great book for you guys to check out. It's not Burnout, it's Betrayal, 5 Tools to Fuel Up and Thrive. I will put a link in your show notes, you guys, so you can check it out and go buy this wonderful book by Lora. And also put a link to your website, and they can come check out your offerings for helping to move through these feelings of betrayal.
That would be great. Thank you. Because you're right. On the planet, it's one betrayal after another, isn't
Right
it?
now, it's like endless betrayals. It's daily. There's at least like 5 executive orders of betrayals going on. So, yeah. So you guys, this is going to help us define what's important to us, what really matters to us, and almost in the challenge of things, right? Is it's being challenged by somebody, you get to decide, no, actually, this is a no-go for me. Like this has to stay, or I'm gonna have to revolt, This is
Yeah.
not okay with me. Yeah, we get to decide that. So beautiful. Thank you for providing well, thank you for helping me, because it's always divinely timed. I was so triggered before this call, you guys, like really. I mean, it's just such a personal thing for me, what's going on. And it's, as a healer myself, I have my own standards of integrity, and there's just some things I would never do. And yeah, so I have
And sometimes you want to do them when you're triggered.
totally, and I want to go tell people. So yeah, it's helped me to calm myself and to see things from that other lens, and to acknowledge the betrayal, acknowledge those feelings. And so sometimes that's all we need, is to be acknowledged in how we feel. Thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you for the conversation.
And I'm going to give everybody kisses now. So go check out Laura's book, go get the book, and then here come kisses. Everybody can join me, Laura, if you want. We're going to give you kisses. We love you. Thank you for staying. Thank you for sharing this out with anybody else that needs it too, because we have a whole lot of people probably feeling betrayed. So this great book. Okay, here we come. Love you guys. See you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now. To dive in deeper to nourishing conversation, visit soulnectar.show.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are.